Marcus, a software developer, walks into his office. As he settles at his desk, he overhears his colleague Sarah loudly complaining, "I can't believe they gave that project to Alex instead of me. Don't they know I'm the best programmer here?" Marcus sighs. It's not the first time he's heard Sarah talk like this. In fact, it seems like everywhere he turns these days, he's running into people who believe the world owes them something just for existing. Sound familiar? Welcome to our exploration of self-entitled people and why, according to ancient Stoic wisdom, you should give them a wide berth. Today, we're diving into a topic that's as old as humanity itself, but with a twist. We're looking at it through the lens of Stoicism, a practical philosophy that's been helping people navigate life's challenges for over 2,000 years. But first, let's get on the same page. What exactly is selfish entitlement? Simply put, it's the belief that you deserve special treatment or privileges without earning them. Sarah thinks she should get every good project just because she's Sarah. Now, you might be wondering, what does a bunch of ancient Roman philosophers have to do with dealing with entitled people in the 21st century? Well, stick around, because you're about to discover how the teachings of Stoics like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca can be your secret weapon in navigating a world where entitlement seems to rise. By the end of this video, you'll have a toolbox complete with Stoic strategies to 1. Recognize entitled behavior, even in yourself. Yeah, we're going there. 2. Understand why it's crucial to distance yourself from overly entitled people. And 3. Deal with entitled individuals when you can't avoid them. So, grab your virtual toga, and let's embark on this Stoic journey together. Chapter 1, The Psychology of Self-Entitlement, a Stoic View. But instead of modern psychology textbooks, we're going to flip through the writings of some old-school thinkers. Trust me, these guys knew a thing or two about human nature. Let's start with Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher who began his life as an enslaved person and ended up as one of the most respected teachers in Rome. Epictetus had much to say about desire and aversion, two concepts at the heart of entitled behavior. He once said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not but rejoices for those which he has." Now, imagine Sarah from our intro taking this advice to heart. Instead of griping about the project she didn't get, she might appreciate the skills and opportunities she already has. However, entitled people often do the opposite. They focus on what they think they deserve rather than what they actually have. This brings us to an important Stoic principle, virtue. For the Stoics, virtue wasn't about being a goody two-shoes, it was about living in harmony with nature and reason. They believed that virtue, made up of wisdom, justice, courage, and self-control, was the only true good. Now contrast this with entitled behavior. An entitled person might say, "I deserve this because I want it," while a Stoic would ask, "Is wanting this in line with virtue? Does it make me wiser, more just, courageous, or self-controlled?" Despite being the most powerful man in the world, Marcus constantly struggled against entitlement. In his personal journal, later published as Meditations, he often reminded himself not to be corrupted by his position. There's an anecdote about Marcus dealing with entitled senators. These guys thought they deserved special treatment just because they were, well, senators. But Marcus, drawing on his Stoic training, treated them like any other citizen. He famously said, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." In essence, Marcus was saying, "Look, I can't control these senators' entitled behavior, but I can control my reaction to it." And that, my friends, is Stoicism in a nutshell. So, what can we learn from this Stoic view of entitlement? First, focusing on what we lack rather than what we have is a recipe for misery. Second, true worth comes from virtue, not from what we think the world owes us. And finally, while we can't control others' entitled behavior, we always have control over our response to it. In our next segment, we'll look at how to spot entitled behavior using some age-old Stoic wisdom. It involves a guy named Seneca and a bunch of wannabe philosophers. Stay tuned. Chapter 2, Recognizing Self-Entitled Behavior Through a Stoic Lens. Now that we've delved into the psychology of entitlement, let's talk about how to spot it in the wild, and who better to guide us than Seneca, the OG of calling out fake philosophers? Seneca was a wealthy Roman statesman and Stoic philosopher who had a knack for seeing through people's pretenses. In one of his letters, he writes about encountering a group of people who claimed to be philosophers but were really just entitled braggarts. Men who have made philosophy their choice yet do not shape their conduct to their professions are no better than those people who own doctors but never follow their prescriptions. Seneca just dropped the mic on entitled behavior. So, according to our Stoic philosophers, what are some key traits of self-entitled individuals? 1. They believe they're special and deserve privileges without earning them. 2. They have difficulty accepting criticism or admitting mistakes. 3. They often blame others for their problems. 4. They have unrealistic expectations of others and the world around them. 5. They struggle with empathy and considering others' perspectives. A Roman senator known for his unwavering principles. Cato was famous for standing up against corruption and entitlement in Roman politics, even when it made him unpopular. There's a story about Cato refusing to participate in a traditional practice where candidates for office would bribe voters with free grain. While other politicians felt entitled to win by any means necessary, Cato stuck to his principles. He lost the election but kept his integrity intact. This story illustrates a crucial point: entitled behavior often masquerades as confidence or ambition, but there's a key difference between healthy self-esteem and harmful entitlement. The Stoics would say that healthy self-esteem comes from living virtuously and doing your best, regardless of the outcome. Entitlement, on the other hand, is about expecting a certain outcome regardless of your actions. He might notice that his coworker Alex, who got the project Sarah wanted, doesn't brag about it or act like he was owed the opportunity. Instead, Alex expresses gratitude for the chance to work on the project and focuses on doing his best. That's healthy self-esteem in action. On the other hand, Sarah continues to grumble about being passed over, insisting she deserved the project without considering why Alex might have been chosen or how she could improve her skills. That's entitlement talking. Start by paying attention to how people respond to setbacks or criticism. Do they reflect on how they can improve, or do they immediately blame others? Do they express gratitude for what they have, or are they always focused on what they think they deserve? And here's the tricky part: don't forget to turn that Stoic lens on yourself sometimes. As Marcus Aurelius said, "Look within, within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if thou wilt ever dig." In our next segment, we'll explore the impact of self-entitled people and how Stoicism can help us navigate these choppy waters. Get ready for some practical Stoic strategies that would make Epictetus proud. Chapter 3, The Impact of Self-Entitled People. What would a Stoic do? Dealing with entitled people can be exhausting, like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. No matter how much you give, it's never enough. But fear not, our Stoic friends have some sage advice for handling these situations. Let's start with one of the core principles of Stoicism: focusing on what we can control. Epictetus stated clearly, some things are in our control and others not. Things in our control are opinion, pursuit, desire, aversion, and, in a word, whatever are our own actions. Things not in our control are body, property, reputation, command, and, in one word, whatever are not our own actions. So, what does this mean when we're dealing with entitled people? Well, we can't control their behavior, but we can control our response to it. Still bitter about not getting the project, Sarah has started spreading rumors about Alex's incompetence. She clearly feels entitled to undermine him to make herself look better. Marcus, drawing on his Stoic training, realizes he can't control Sarah's behavior, but he can control his own actions. What would a Stoic do in this situation? Here are a few possibilities. Stay objective. Marcus doesn't let Sarah's rumors cloud his judgment of Alex's work. He evaluates Alex based on his actual performance, not on gossip. Refuse to participate. When Sarah tries to draw Marcus into her complaining, he politely but firmly refuses to talk negatively about their colleagues. Focus on virtue. Instead of getting caught up in office politics, Marcus concentrates on doing his work to the best of his ability. Practice empathy. While not excusing Sarah's behavior, Marcus tries to understand what insecurities might be driving it. This helps him respond with patience rather than anger. Now, you might be thinking, that's all well and good, but doesn't this approach let entitled people walk all over you? Great question. The Stoics would argue that you're actually in a position of strength by not letting the entitled person's behavior disturb your tranquility. As Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. By remaining calm and focused in the face of entitled behavior, you maintain your integrity and often command more respect than if you had sunk to their level. But let's be honest, this isn't always easy. Dealing with entitled people can take a toll on your mental health and well-being. That's why the Stoics also emphasize the importance of choosing your companions wisely. Seneca advised, associate with people who are likely to improve you. He wasn't suggesting we only hang out with perfect people, as if they exist, but rather that we should be mindful of the company we keep. If entitled individuals constantly surround you, it can wear you down and even start to warp your own perspective. So, what's a modern Stoic to do? Here are a few strategies. Set clear boundaries. Let entitled people know what behavior you will and won't accept. Do this calmly and without anger, but be firm. Limit exposure. When possible, reduce the time you spend with highly entitled individuals. You don't have to cut them off entirely, but be mindful of how much of your energy they're consuming. Seek out positive influences. Actively cultivate relationships with people who inspire you to be your best self. Practice self-care. Take time to recharge and reinforce your values and perspective. This could involve journaling, meditation, or simply spending time in nature. Use entitled behavior as a teaching tool. When you encounter it, use it to reflect on your attitudes and behaviors. Are there areas where you might harbor a sense of entitlement without realizing it? The goal isn't to eliminate all problematic people from your life. That's not possible or even desirable. As Marcus Aurelius said, the art of living is more like wrestling than dancing. The challenge is part of what helps us grow. Instead, the Stoic approach is about developing the inner resilience to deal with entitled behavior effectively without letting it disturb your peace of mind or compromise your principles. It's about recognizing what you can and can't control, focusing on your virtue, and using every interaction, even the difficult ones, as an opportunity for personal growth. Chapter 4: Why Avoiding Self-Entitled People is Crucial, Stoic Wisdom on Relationships. Picture this: it's ancient Rome, and you're Lucius, a young merchant trying to make your way in the bustling marketplace. You've got a choice to make. On one side, there's Quintus, a flashy trader known for his grandiose claims and his belief that he's the god's gift to commerce. On the other, there's Claudia, a quiet but respected businesswoman who treats her customers and fellow merchants with equal respect. Now, if you were seeking advice, you might turn to Epictetus, the formerly enslaved person turned renowned Stoic teacher. Epictetus would likely remind you of one of his key teachings: the key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. This translates to a simple but powerful idea in our modern world: the people we surround ourselves with shape who we become. So, why is it crucial to avoid self-entitled people? Let's break it down with a story. This is where our old friend Seneca would chime in. In one of his letters to his protege Lucilius, Seneca wrote, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you, welcome those whom you yourself can improve. The process is mutual, for men learn while they teach." The Stoics believe that true happiness comes from living a life of virtue, wisdom, justice, courage, and self-control. Entitled people, with their constant focus on what they deserve rather than what they can contribute, often pull us away from these virtues. How often have you found yourself compromising your values or feeling drained after spending time with someone who constantly puts their desires above everything else? It's like trying to fill a leaky bucket. No matter how much positivity or virtue you pour in, it drains away in the presence of entitlement. But here's the kicker: the Stoics weren't advocating for completely cutting off difficult people. Instead, they encouraged us to be mindful of the company we keep and its effect on our character. As Marcus Aurelius put it, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. So, what's the Stoic solution? It's about striking a balance. Limit your exposure to entitled individuals when you can. But when you must interact with them, use it as an opportunity to practice your Stoic virtues. Let their entitlement be the whetstone that sharpens your patience, compassion, and commitment to living according to your principles. Instead of letting Alex's behavior change her, she used it as motivation to double down on her integrity. She started keeping a work journal, crediting her teammates' contributions, and focusing on improving her skills rather than seeking recognition. Over time, her colleagues and superiors noticed her genuine talent and teamwork, leading to new opportunities and a much more fulfilling career path. We create an environment that nurtures our growth and happiness by choosing to associate more with those who inspire us to be our best selves and learning to navigate interactions with entitled individuals without compromising our values. It's not about avoiding all problematic people, it's about being intentional with our relationships and using every interaction to practice Stoic wisdom. Chapter 5: Stoic Strategies for Dealing with Self-Entitled People. Stoics in training, let's roll up our toga sleeves and dig into some practical strategies for dealing with entitled people. But first, let me tell you about Marcus. No, not the emperor this time, but our modern-day office warrior. Marcus has been killing it at his software development job, consistently delivering high-quality code ahead of schedule. He's even given hints to his boss about leading the next big project. But there's a twist in our tale. Enter Lucia, the new hire with an impressive resume and an even more impressive sense of entitlement. On her very first day, Lucia announces to the team that she expects to be made project lead within a month because, in her words, "That's the role I deserve with my experience." Marcus feels a knot in his stomach. He's worked hard for this opportunity, and now this newcomer thinks she can just waltz in and claim it. This, my friends, is where our Stoic training kicks in. Let's explain how Marcus can handle the situation using time-tested Stoic techniques. Negative visualization. This is a classic Stoic practice of imagining worst-case scenarios to prepare for them. Our boy Seneca was big on this. He'd say, He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand. So, Marcus takes a moment to imagine what would happen if Lucia did get the project lead role. He realizes that, while it would be disappointing, it wouldn't be the end of the world. He'd still have his job, his skills, and future opportunities. This mental exercise helps reduce his anxiety and puts him in a calmer state of mind. Focus on what you can control. This is straight out of Epictetus's playbook. He taught, some things are in our control, and others not. Things in our control are opinion, pursuit, desire, aversion, and, in a word, whatever are our own actions. Marcus realizes he can't control Lucia's behavior or his boss's decisions. What he can control is his own actions and responses. He continues doing excellent work, documents his contributions clearly, and communicates his career goals to his boss. Practicing virtue in the face of entitlement. Virtue is the only true good for Stoics. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, just that you do the right thing. The rest doesn't matter. Our modern Marcus decides to take the high road. Instead of badmouthing Lucia or trying to undermine her, he chooses to be a team player. He even offers to help Lucia understand the team's workflows and coding standards, demonstrating leadership through action rather than entitlement. The Stoic art of reframing. This involves looking at situations from different perspectives. Epictetus advised, everything has two handles, the one by which it may be carried, the other by which it cannot. If your brother acts unjustly, don't lay hold on the action by the handle of his injustice, for by that it cannot be carried, but by the opposite, that he is your brother, that he was brought up with you, and thus you will lay hold on it as it is to be carried. Marcus tries to reframe Lucia's behavior. Perhaps her entitlement comes from insecurity in a new job, maybe she's been taught that this is how one should act in a corporate environment. This perspective helps Marcus respond with empathy rather than anger. Setting boundaries with Stoic calm. The Stoics were all about maintaining tranquility, but that doesn't mean being a pushover. It's about setting boundaries calmly and firmly. When Lucia tries to take credit for one of Marcus's ideas in a team meeting, he calmly states, I'm glad you agree with the approach I proposed last week. I'd happily explain more about how I developed that solution. No anger, no accusation, just a straightforward, factual statement. Now, let's fast forward a few weeks. Thanks to his Stoic approach, Marcus has maintained his composure and continued to excel in his work. His boss, noticing his consistent performance and mature handling of team dynamics, decides to make Marcus the project lead. But here's the plot twist, the boss also asks Marcus to mentor Lucia, seeing potential in her skills despite her entitled attitude. Marcus, channeling his inner Stoic sage, sees this as an opportunity to practice virtue and potentially positively influence Lucia's approach to work and colleagues. The moral of our story. By applying Stoic principles, Marcus achieved his goal, maintained his integrity, improved team dynamics, and positioned himself as a leader capable of handling challenging personalities. Remember, dealing with entitled people is less about changing them and more about managing our responses and staying true to our principles. As Epictetus wisely said, you are not your body and hairstyle but your capacity for choosing well. If your choices are beautiful, so too will you be. Chapter 6, Breaking Free from Your Own Entitlement, a Stoic Approach to Self-Improvement. Breaking free from your own entitlement, a Stoic approach to self-improvement. We've spent much time discussing dealing with entitled people, but now it's time to look in the mirror, because let's face it, we've all had moments when we felt the world owed us something. Speaking of Marcus Aurelius, did you know that this Roman emperor, one of the most powerful men in the known world, spent time each day writing notes to himself about how to be a better person? Talk about setting the bar high for self-improvement. In his Meditations, Marcus wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is the cornerstone of Stoic self-improvement. It's not about controlling the world, but mastering our thoughts and actions. Let me tell you about Sophia, a rising star in a tech startup. She's brilliant, hardworking, and, well, starting to feel a bit entitled. After landing a few big clients, she begins to expect special treatment. She shows up late to meetings, figuring the team can wait for her. She dismisses ideas that aren't her own. She even starts to believe that the company's success is mostly due to her efforts. Sound familiar? Maybe you've been Sophia at some point. I know I have. This is where Stoic self-reflection comes in handy. Here are some exercises inspired by Stoic philosophy to help us check our sense of entitlement. Evening review. This is a practice Marcus Aurelius swore by. At the end of each day, ask yourself, did I expect special treatment today? Why? Did I blame others for my problems, or take responsibility for my actions? Did I show gratitude for what I have or focus on what I think I deserve? Voluntary discomfort. This Stoic practice involves intentionally putting yourself in uncomfortable situations to build resilience and appreciate what you have. Maybe it's taking the stairs instead of the elevator or eating a simple meal instead of dining out. The goal is to remind yourself that you can handle discomfort and don't need constant luxury. Premeditatio malorum. This is the practice of negative visualization we discussed earlier. Regularly imagine losing the things you feel entitled to. It's a great way to cultivate gratitude and resilience. Memento mori. The Stoics often reminded themselves of their mortality. It sounds grim, but it's a powerful way to put things in perspective. When you remember that your time is limited, it becomes clear how pointless it is to waste energy feeling entitled. The Stoic approach to overcoming entitlement is not about denying your worth or downplaying your achievements. It's about recognizing that true self-worth comes from your character and actions, not from external validation or special treatment. Remember, breaking free from entitlement is an ongoing process. Even Marcus Aurelius, with all his wisdom, felt the need to remind himself daily about staying humble and virtuous. So be patient with yourself, keep practicing, and watch as your Stoic mindset transforms not just how you deal with entitled people but how you approach life itself. In our final segment, we'll wrap up our Stoic journey and explore how to build a life of virtue in a world that often seems to reward entitlement. Conclusion: building a life of virtue in a world of entitlement. We've journeyed through the land of entitlement, armed with the wisdom of ancient philosophers. Now it's time to answer the big question: why should we care about all this, and how can we apply it in our lives? The truth is plain and simple: you can't control the entitled people around you, but you can absolutely control how you respond to them. And that, my friends, is where your power lies. Why should you strive to build a life of virtue in a world full of entitlement? Because it's the surest path to genuine happiness and peace of mind. You become unshakable when you base your worth on your character rather than external validation. No entitled person can take that away from you. So, how do we do this? Here are 3 Stoic-inspired strategies you can start applying today. Practice gratitude daily. Instead of focusing on what you think you deserve, appreciate what you already have. It's a simple shift that can transform your life. Reframe challenges as opportunities for growth. When you encounter entitled behavior, ask yourself, how can this situation help me become more patient, understanding, or resilient? Focus on your actions, not the outcomes. Do your best in everything you do, but remember that the result isn't entirely in your control. Your virtue lies in your effort, not in external recognition. Remember, building a life of virtue isn't about being perfect. It's about consistent effort and gradual improvement. You're growing stronger whenever you choose patience over frustration, understanding over judgment, or humility over entitlement. You're part of the Stoic community now, meaning you're never alone on this journey. We all work together to navigate life's challenges with wisdom and grace. So, the next time you're faced with entitled behavior, take a deep breath and remember that you have the power to choose your response. Choose virtue, choose growth, choose the path of the Stoic.